Hello, everybody. Welcome again to the Suffer Well Devotional Series. Today's title is The Fig Tree and Its Lesson. And then after reading the devotional, we're going to discuss it. We're going to read it right now. This is from the Suffer Well Devotional Series. If you've been listening to us, you understand how these devotionals are going to help us grow spiritually. And hopefully you're going to apply these lessons to your life. If you're joining us today for the first time, welcome to the show. Here we're talking about spiritual truth and suffering well. Suffering well. Many people say, well, why would we suffer if we believe in our Creator? He never said we weren't going to suffer. He always said he'll be with us and teach us the lessons, how to persevere. And he'll never give us something that we can't handle. And that's the situation we find ourselves in. We have a choice to suffer or suffer well. We're going to suffer, but we have to understand the difference. So that's what these devotionals help us understand and see about. So today, the fig tree and its lesson. Now in the morning, and in parentheses, the illumination, as he was returning to the city, he was hungry, and he saw a fig tree by the road, and he came to it, but found nothing, no spiritual fruit, never grow on you again. And immediately the fig withered. And they marveled what the disciples saw. They marveled and said, how did the fig tree wither away so quickly? Matthew 21, verses 18 to 20. Man lives on every word revealed from the mouth of Yahweh. Matthew 4, verse 4. From Deuteronomy 8, verse 3. Heaven's language is profound, yet meant for little children. The wise and learned so often misunderstand because the dulled spiritual sense. Matthew 11:25. Blessed are those eyes that see what you see. For I tell you that many prophets and kings wanted to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Luke 10, verses 23 and 24. So what is the lesson from the fig tree? Starting our discussion with the critical question would be appropriate. Where in Scripture do you ever see Yeshua the Messiah praying about what to do? Slow your mind and walk this out. And it will help you perceive this lesson. The model prayer itself in Matthew 6, verses 9 to 13 teaches complete reliance on the Father's will, as it says in verse 10, and cautions against mindless repetition, verse 7. As the Father knows what things you need before you ask him, verse 8. Yeshua only walked to the fig tree because he was led to the fig tree. The reality that there was no fruit was the superficial issue. Obedience to go and his reaction to what he found were the real issues. There would be no weeping prayers, no lengthy intercession or explanations, and no repetitive pleas to make something that he may have personally desired appear. It was his Father's will that the tree had no fruit, and he would not pray to change that. I pray for them, and not praying for the world, but for those who have given me, for they are yours. John 17, verse 9. If we peer into the mind of Messiah, as in 1 Corinthians 2, verse 16 says, what might he be thinking? I expected there to be fruit on the tree, but I found none. However, the none that I found was my fruit of obedience for going. That is what mattered to my Father. Also, the fact that as soon as I pierced there was no fruit. As soon as I perceived that, like I had imagined there would be, it was immediately illuminated to me that this was my Father's will, and I did not succumb to my own will, nor did I desire its fruit any longer, because it had been my Father's will for me to eat its fruit. There would have been fruit on the tree. You see, there is so simple that a small child can understand it. It is the wise and learned who have difficulty. If you are stuck wondering what to do, then you suffer from the double-mindedness, loved one. James 1, verse 8. A divided house cannot stand itself. Mark 3:25. Stop willing things to happen according to personal desire, while claiming I'm just waiting for Yahweh and trusting him for it. You should know immediately in all things if only one is being considered. And if he intends for you to hold out for something, then complete peace and undetached tranquility is proof that it is of him. If he says wait, then no more prayers are necessary in this matter, if you are willing to receive it. The lesson of the fig tree: immediately go when you are told. Leave what you are told. Wait how long you are told. And in all matters, be content with what you find. Stop trying to impose your self-desire upon Yahweh. While claiming to be his servant, your will be done. It's not just another pleasant Christian sound bite that you can wear on a rubber bracelet. It's the mind of Messiah and all the power and responsibility that comes with it. We are going to the deepest places, loved one. Prepare your mind to receive, because this is what you will find. When you arrive, Yeshua replied, truly I tell you, if you have faith and do not doubt, not only can you do what is done to the fig tree, but also you can say to the mountains, go throw yourself into the sea, and it will be done. Matthew 21:21. We see the profound message that's given here that is scriptural. The spiritual growth that takes place in us to be able to understand and act immediately on the things that he tells us to do, when to do them, and how to do them. And I want to discuss today the armor of truth and how we are to clothe ourselves with righteousness on a regular daily basis. And what Paul says in the scriptures about the belt in this fashion statement of wearing ourselves the armor of truth. In Ephesians 6:14, Paul names the belt of truth as a primary piece of the armor of Yahweh. Why beginning with the belt? Why not the sword or the shield? Satan's first tactic is to cast doubt on Yahweh's word. That is why our defense begins to have a girded our loins with truth. We have to get this and understand this is exactly what he did to Eve, and Eve did to Adam. It's trying to take apart Yahweh's truth. We must understand his word is truth, and his word is real, and his word keeps us together. Once you start doubting Yahweh's word, everything shatters from there. And this is what happens today. People that don't believe in Yahweh are attacked because they don't believe in his word. They think his word is not true and his word is not real, because if you believe his word is true and real, you're going to follow and listen to his word. And that's the problem. This belt of truth. We must live out our faith in our daily lives, and our faith must be for Yahweh. In the first 3 chapters in Ephesians, Paul makes 6 statements that spell out our position in Yeshua. And this is the truth. This is what consists of the belt of truth that we must understand. Yahweh has selected us. Yahweh chose us. Ephesians 1 verse 4 says, according to as he has chosen us in him before the foundations of the world. And we should be holy, without blame, before him in love. When the enemy whispers in our ear that we can be different, or we can do better, or tries to change our mind from Yahweh's word, remind him that Yahweh chose you. And this was from the beginning of the foundations of time. Number 2, Yahweh not only selected us, he saved us. Ephesians 1:7 says, in whom we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of sins according to the riches of his grace. Redeemed. He saved us, redeemed us. And number 3, we are sealed. Ephesians 1:13 says, in whom ye also trusted, that if he heard the word of truth, the gospel of your salvation, in whom also after that you believed, you were sealed with the set apart spirit of promise. And number 4, the position. We are sealed at the right hand of Yahweh. Ephesians 2 verse 6 says, and has raised up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Yeshua our Messiah. And number 5, we are secure. It says we will be seated with Yeshua for all eternity. Why? Well, Ephesians 2:19 says, now therefore ye are no more strangers or foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints of the household of Elohim. Ephesians 3 verse 6 says, but the Gentiles should be fellow hires and the same body and partakers of his promise in Yeshua by the gospel. You are a citizen hire of the same body as Yeshua. And then number 6 of the belt of truth. Our position is of strength. Ephesians 3:16 says that he would grant you according to the riches of his glory to be strengthened with might by his spirit in the inner man. Do we get this? This is so important to understand. I am not giving you a repetitive over and over again scriptures to make you just say, well, he said that yesterday. He read that before. This is the truth of armor, to know that Yahweh's word is real and true. And I know I'm preaching to the choir to many of you, but still, when is the last time you read the word and you pondered on it? When he said, get up and go, you went. When he said, don't go, you didn't. Or do you stay and argue with him? Do you have double-mindedness? Or do you get up and go? The spiritual growth. It says in Matthew 23, verse 23, woe to you, teachers of the law and the Pharisees, you hypocrites. You give 1/10 of your spice, mint, dull, and cumin, but you have neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. And why do I say this today? Because many of you listening, you do the works. You do what the scriptures say to do. And you think in pride and egotistic attitudes that, well, I'm doing that, so I'm okay. Well, I'm keeping that commandment. I'm doing that, so I'm okay. But do you understand that Torah is not about doing something? It's about an attitude about doing something. That's the issue the Pharisees had. The Pharisees were able to do all the commandments on the outside, but their attitude and their heart wasn't in the right place. That was the issue. The attitude of Yeshua. That's what he was trying to teach them. And that's the issue he had with them. It wasn't with their fences around the law or them not keeping Torah. It was their attitude about it. Their lack of love. Their lack of understanding mercy and grace. That's why he says in Matthew 23:25, woe to you, teachers of the law of the Pharisees, you hypocrites. You clean the outside of the cup and dash, but on the inside you are full of greed and self-indulgence. We see here in the fig tree parable today, we understand, why does this fig tree have no figs? How can we get these figs back on this tree and everything else? Trying to live against the will of our wonderful Creator. That's what the devotional was trying to teach you about. His will be done, not our will. Not our will. We see this. It says in 1 Corinthians 13, verse 11. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put on the ways of children behind me. We have to understand this. We have to understand the spiritual growth. 1 Peter 2, verses 1 and 3 says, rid yourself of all malice, deceit, hypocrisy, envy, and slander. Like newborn infants, desire the pure spiritual milk, so that you may grow by it for your salvation, since you have tested or tasted that Yahweh is good. Yahweh is good. 1 Corinthians 3, verse 1 and 3 says, brothers and sisters, I could not address you as people who live by the Spirit, but as people who are still worldly. Mere infants in Yeshua. I gave you milk, not solid food, for you were not yet ready for it. Indeed, you're still not ready. You are still worldly, for since there is jealousy and quarreling among you, you are worldly. Are you not acting like mere humans? We have been called to a different place. Yes, this message today isn't for the new person just automatically hearing me for the first time. But those of you who have been with me for a long time, listening to these Suffer Well devotionals, saying you're keeping the Torah, saying you're doing the works, saying you're doing all these things, but still have the audacity to ask, why? To ask Yahweh, why? Why haven't I gotten this? Why has this being done in my life? to doubt our Creator and everything He calls for us to do. You need to spiritually grow up. You need to understand His will be done. That's why, not our will. There's nowhere in the scriptures that says because you do something, you're going to get your desires. It says your desires must become His desires. He will give you exactly what you need. And yes, obedience equals blessings and disobedience equals curses. But who decides what the blessings and the curses are in life? Who decides that? You might be driving down the street and you'll get a flat tire or your car may break down. And you'll think, why am I so cursed? Why did He let this happen? Now I'm going to be late to where I'm going. But do you realize the blessing that He just stopped you from getting in a major accident? Do you stop to thank Him for that flat tire or that car breaking down because He's saving you from something even worse possibly? Or do you sit there and complain, why this breakdown? I do so much good in the world. I help so many people. I follow your commandments. I follow your Torah. When He says get up and go somewhere, do you get up and go or do you ponder with Him and wait? Are you reading His word every day and taking your position of where it needs to be and setting the examples for others? And you might say, yes, I do those things. I'm thankful for everything. Well, what is your attitude? Is your an attitude of joy? Showing others that you can have joy amongst all the storms going on and being faithful? Or are you getting upset and setting a terrible example of what it means to be a believer in Yahweh? Why would any believer in Yahweh not have anything but joy? Why? It says in Philippians 1:6, be confident of this very thing, that He who has begun a good work in you will complete it until the day of Yeshua, our wonderful Messiah. Philippians 2:13 says, for it is Yahweh who is at work in you, both to will and to work for His good pleasure. Do you understand what it means to this gift that He's given us? Anyone that claims to have the Radak HaKodesh, you want to call it the Holy Spirit, the set apart spirit, whatever you want to call it. If you truly have that gift, you would simply not act the way mere humans act. There is a difference. That's what it means to be different and set apart. But so many of you, even if you're doing the works, you're not of the right attitude. You're not of the right attitude. Sin is not just living against the commandments. Sin is having an attitude against the way He created us to be. It said in 2 Corinthians 5:17, if there is anyone in Yeshua, the new creature has come. The old is gone. The new is here. Do not be dismayed, is what the scripture says. Do not have fear of man. 1 John 3:9-10 says, no one who is born of Yahweh practices sin because his seed abides in him, and he cannot sin because he is born of Yahweh. By this, the children of Yahweh and the children of the devil are obvious. Anyone who does not practice righteousness is not of Yahweh, nor the one who does not love his brother. And I can tell you right now, if we truly believe in Him, and if we are of Him, we will not have the fear, the worry, and the doubt that so many people that call themselves believers have. And people will question me and says, who are you to judge me? And that's not true. We can have fear. We can have doubt. We can have worry and all these things. Well, it's not me that's saying this. It's a word that's saying this. Galatians 5:22-24 says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faith, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law. Now those who belong to Yeshua have crucified the flesh with its passions and desires. And yes, many of us are working to get there. That's fine. But don't think you're there if you're still having things of the old self hanging on to you. It says in Job 17:9, the righteous keep moving forward, and those with clean hands become stronger and stronger. There's no neutrality with our Creator. You keep moving forward. If you've stopped, that's considered moving backwards. And we're going to fall along the way, but we get up and we keep moving forward. We keep understanding the prize. We don't stop. It says in Proverbs 24:16, for though a righteous man falls 7 times, he will rise again. But the wicked stumble into calamity. Don't be like the wicked. That's it. We have to understand the spiritual growth that must be taking place in us presently. Yahweh's word is real and Yahweh's word is true. And we must understand it. Even if we don't understand it, we must rely on it. He says in his word, you might not realize it now, but what I'm doing later, you will understand. So we look at the fig tree here and everything else, and we look at John 15, verse 2. He cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does not bear fruit, he prunes, so that it will be even more fruitful. As I'm in my garden, pruning my trees, seeing fruit grow, taking care of the ground and everything else in it, and understanding how it all equals Yahweh's plan for us. When we take care of what he wanted us to take care of and do what he wanted us to do, we get what he wanted us to get, what he wants us to get, not what we want to get in our lives. And then we can just live our lives in happiness and joy. And that's what it means to suffer well. And that's why when you see people about to be martyred for Yeshua, I have a book that I read, Fox's Books of Martyrs. All these people were about to be killed. Not one of them, in not one area did it say, you're going to be killed for Yeshua because you didn't keep the Sabbath. Or you're going to be killed for Yeshua because you were eating unclean foods. No, it says you're going to be killed because you're not going to recount your trust and your faith in Yeshua. And these people said, works are works, attitude is attitude. As I grow, I'll be more faithful to my Creator. But I am never, ever going to denounce him. And these why these people were martyred. And these why these people were martyred with joy. These why these people were martyred with joy. They had no fear in them of what was going to happen. They understood where they were going. They understood where the position was. They understood the armor of truth, the belt of truth. It says in John 15, verse 4 and 5, remain in me and I in you, just as a branch is unable to produce fruit by itself unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine and you are the branches. The one who remains in me and I in him produces much fruit, because you can do nothing without me. This is what we realize. We can do nothing without him. And everything we can do with him. There's nothing we can't do with him. But we must get this and understand this important lesson. And to remain firm in our faith and confident in our identity in him. We need to ask ourselves where our truth truly lies. It says in Proverbs 23:7, what you believe in your heart is how you'll be. For as he thinks his heart is, so he is. We get that. Renewing your mind and examining yourself. It says in 2 Corinthians 13:5, examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourselves. Test everything. 1 John 5:14 says, this is the confidence we have in approaching Yahweh, that if we ask anything according to his will, he hears us. He hears us. His word is speaking to us. Are you writing down his scriptures when he speaks them to you? Trusting in him, having faith in him. It says in Psalms 9, verse 10, those who know your name trust in you. For you, Yahweh, never forsaken those who seek you. Are you seeking him today? Do you have that peace and that joy? Yes, that peace and that joy. Time is running out, folks. It's time we understood our job and what we need to do. And we go out on complete faith and trust in him. Complete faith, the faith that Abraham had, the faith that Noah had. All the examples set in the scriptures. 2 Corinthians 5:7 says, for we live by faith, not by sight. When it says in Isaiah 65:24, before they call, I will answer. While they are still speaking, I will hear. That's it. That's it. Remember, when they got to Jericho and they marched around and the walls fell down, the faith that they had that these things are going to happen. No fear, worry of man or anything like that. Trusting in faith and not letting anything take your joy away. Psalms 46:10 says, be still and know that I am Yahweh. And know that I am Yahweh. Psalm 62:5 says, yes, my soul finds rest in Yahweh. My hope comes from him. And I remind you all of of Wisdom 3, verses 5 and 6, to trust in him with all your heart, not rely on your own understanding. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he will make your path straight. The enemy tries to attack us, our minds. He tries to destroy the truth of Yahweh. He tries to emotionally make us depart and do things like he did with Adam and Eve and all the other people that sin in the scriptures. We look at Samson, a very powerful physical man who was born, a prophet, who was born so strong and to be used for Yahweh, but he let his emotional state take over. And we look at the lesson that he had to learn. We look at that. All these examples set for us, so our spiritual growth, to see how we could be and what we could do, so we not be led astray, and we can be used exactly the way that Yahweh wants to use us. Are you ready to be used today exactly the way Yahweh wants to use you? We must trust in Yahweh at all times. And if he tells us to do something that seems impossible, don't laugh. Don't be like Sarah and Abraham and laugh. No, trust. Romans 10:17 says, so then faith comes by hearing, and hearing from the word of Yahweh. When you read his word, he's speaking, you're hearing it. To read his word on a regular basis every single day, to understand. And Matthew 6:33, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all the things that will be given to you as well. That's the first thing we must do when we get up every day. His kingdom. How does he want to use us today? And what does he want us to do for his kingdom? And we must continuously to seek that. And remember about suffering well. I leave you with James 1, verses 2 and 4. Consider it a joy, my brothers, whenever you experience various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. But endurance must do its complete work, so that you may be mature, complete, and lacking nothing. Praise our wonderful Creator for his wonderful healing touch on us and his guidance for us as he takes our steps one before the other, as he creates his light through his word for us to see, and he gives us his word to hear. And we go out today and suffer well. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed day. Yahweh be with you all, and shalom, shalom.